everybody, it is I, the slut who loves purple, and welcome to the Dramatic Otaku. My name is Brooklyn, and today we're going to be doing the fanfic rant. As you do. The fanfic rant is my takes on tropes of fanfiction and my hot takes on them, as well as my opinions. So this is the second, technically third time me making this video. The original video, for those who watched it, I took down because I hated my initial, shit take on the high school AU. I was essentially an Australian complaining about American tropes and how I don't understand it as someone who is not American. The rest of the video I really did like, so I'll be reusing that footage from the video. However, just the first 13 minutes I just hate so much, so I'll be redoing it in this part of the video. There will be other sections in this video that I will have redone or added in, you don't know. But yes, you'll see me flipping between this version of me and the past version of me that has long hair and a very gay shirt. I will still include certain clips from the first high school AU section because I did some top tier editing that I will not be able to redo for this section of the video, and I think it's such a waste to have all of that go. I hate it. So the high school AU, my main gripe with the high school AU is the fact that the American high school experience is not universal whatsoever. I hate that the high school AU is written like it is universal, especially since I think it would be interesting to see characters in different high school settings, not just American ones, because there are interesting things that go on around the world in terms of like school festivals. So having just these American experiences is just kind of confusing at this point. So the majority of high school AUs you'll find yourself reading about in fanfiction is predominantly American, and I say that because the only other type of school system you will see in fanfiction is the Japanese school system, and that is typically if the characters are A, anime characters, and B, are already in that setting, which doesn't really give the high school AU element. That's more canon compliance than high school AU, obviously. Like the only way I can see the Japanese high school system used in a high school AU is if it's in the My Hero Academia fandom and it's like Aizawa and Present Mike and all of those like UA teachers being back in high school. That's the only way I can see that working as a high school AU, and even then it would be still somewhat canon compliant. If there's a high school AU of, say, like Attack on Titan, a world where there isn't a school system whatsoever, it will be in an American school that's created for this AU, and if it's any fandom that isn't anime, bet your ass it's gonna be in an American school. What exactly do I mean by an American school? I mean many high school AUs will have the typical American experiences such as prom, fucking homecoming, and the homecoming dance. I just don't understand. Is the entire school built around the sports programs that they have, such as football and basketball? Yeah! Is that it? Yeah! As you can tell, not all of these experiences really exist outside of the US. Like, I have googled what the fuck a prom and a homecoming is, and I still don't understand. Now I get that these stories are typically written by Americans for Americans, but I can't help but feel at a loss reading these scenarios because I just don't know what they are. Now, I'm not stupid. I know that a prom is a school dance, and that's it. I don't know what the fuck a homecoming is. I don't know what a homecoming dance is. Like, surely, if you have a prom, you don't really need a homecoming dance. Also, sometimes the prom is the homecoming dance, and I'm just so confused on that concept. And like, The only thing I can understand is like junior and senior prom, but like why can people from other year levels be in the junior or the senior prom if they're asked out by a junior or a senior? Like, or is it like junior school and senior school? How does that work? And then there's like, what the fuck's a quarterback?
America, explain!
Actually, don't tell me that. I could care less about sports. And by the way that the positions of American football are described, so do most fanfiction writers. It's essentially a buzzword for high school AUs at this point. Now, the exception for high school AUs I will make is the fictional high school that the story doesn't focus on. Now, this isn't talking about like Hogwarts, but like everyday schools that don't have a lot going on and don't really have a distinct structure except for this is the school year and you have one class. For example, there is a fanfiction that I'm reading. It is a Dream SMP fanfic. Yes, I read Dream SMP fanfiction. I am very starved for content, but it is a high school AU as well as a superhero AU, and this is where sort of high school AUs flourish when they're put with a different AU. Personally, I really like superhero AUs. I don't know why. I guess because I really like Miraculous Ladybug and like Sailor Moon. I really like those sort of, also BNHA. Superhero AUs sort of appeal to me. Really only focuses on the events of the school about the same amount that Miraculous Ladybug does. It's sort of a setting and not the main driver of the plot. And it's fitting that it does this because it focuses more on the characters around them, unlike with most high school AUs, which are just that. High school AUs. They're just high school AUs without any extra AU on top of that. And with high school AUs like that, they depend on the world around them to help push the plot. Like, I want to confess to my crush before prom. And that's the entire plot. Like every teen romance movie ever. It's boring. And I especially like this Dream SMP fanfic that I'm reading because it's an Australian author trying to write an American school based on a series that takes place in France. For those wondering how I know that, it's because in many of the author's notes, because I actually read those, they've stated that they don't know how American schools work and they don't know the layout of like different cities in America because they're Australian. The other huge hint that gave that away to me before they made that author's note was the fact that they brought up the Pancake Parlor, which is an Australian restaurant. If you are watching this, I'd suggest changing it to either IHOP or Denny's because clearly they are not aware that the Pancake Parlor is only an Australian restaurant and they're trying to write in the US. And honestly, that factor is kind of sad that someone felt like they needed to write an American school. Obviously, some of the characters are American, but not all of them. Actually, majority of the characters, I would say, are European, though I haven't actually counted how many people in the Dream SMP are in this fucking fic. So it's just kind of sad that they felt like they needed to write like they were in America, like they were in American school, because obviously, yeah, some of the characters are American, but a majority of the fics out there are also in an American setting. And while that is on the author, I've seen that happen in so many fics where it is the author struggling to write an American school because they're not American. And they just feel obliged to do it because that's the trope. However, in the same vein, you do have Americans trying to write English boarding schools and just fall flat on their face trying to do it because obviously they're not from England. They don't fucking know how boarding schools work. They don't know the events that go on in these boarding schools. They just know, like with us who aren't American, what they've seen off of the TV. It does happen on both ends on the spectrum, however, it is far more weighed in the non-Americans trying to write American scenarios. But the one saving grace of all of these high school AUs is that every single one of them is clearly fucking set in Euphoria High School, because that's fanfiction high school, baby. In the end, the high school AU typically irritates me because I just cannot wrap my head around the concepts and common events that occur in these fictional schools because I've never experienced them myself, and they are not common where I am from. Personally, I kind of want more stories where people apply their own school system to the story and make their own fictional school based around that, just because you will sound more certain and can in the end focus more on your characters than in the setting and the tedious world building that you will have to do and do a lot of research into when writing, especially if it's a place that you just cannot wrap your head around because you don't understand the place.
Before we continue the video,
I'm once again asking for your financial support.
look at this concept. It is a cosplay concept. Do you think it's funny? I certainly do. I would really like it to come to fruition. But currently I am poor. I have a bit of a problem when it comes to, as you can see, buying manga, because I'm a little bit out of control. This is where you guys could come in if you too would like to see this cosplay come to fruition. I have a Ko-Fi linked in the description. Currently, there is a goal on my Ko-Fi so that I can get supplies for this cosplay. I promise that all money that will be raised on Ko-Fi will go towards this cosplay, and only this cosplay, not all of this manga in the background. I only need a little bit, as I just need to buy some fabric and a few other small materials that I cannot afford to buy myself right now. All and any donations will be greatly appreciated, but do not feel compelled to. Liking, subscribing, and just watching this video is support enough. But yeah, that's the end of me shelling out this thing that I want to do. Let's continue on with this video.
Harry Potter AUs. Speaking about school AUs, the Harry Potter / Hogwarts AU. So in general, a Harry Potter or Hogwarts AU is really, really good. Except for when it's like a direct crossover. I prefer Hogwarts AUs where it's characters from another piece of media living in the world of Hogwarts, and not the characters from Harry Potter meeting the characters from this other piece of media. I don't like that kind of crossover. A Hogwarts AU should be just that, the characters from another piece of media living in the world of Hogwarts or Harry Potter. Also have a bit of a nitpick when it comes to Hogwarts AUs. It's when they try and recreate the story but with other characters, and this is in general with any sort of piece of media AU, whether it's like a Divergent AU or a Hunger Games AU. Putting your own twist to it is a lot better than recreating the stories, especially in the case of Harry Potter, because the Harry Potter series went on for so fucking long. So it's like, maybe try and create your own story in this set of world, because it has a set of laws and you don't really have to do a lot of world building because Harry Potter is really well known. So it's very easy to create your own story in this world rather than recreate the Harry Potter stories. The only exception I will give to this rule is Goblet of Fire, because that is honestly my favorite Harry Potter book, and it is honestly probably the more exciting out of all of the Harry Potter books in my humble opinion, because it's like a whole school event. So having that as being recreated in a fanfiction, I will 100% give that the pass, because it's a whole school event compared to other Hogwarts fanfictions that recreate the story where it's just the main three characters, obviously like in the original books. Yeah, that's my only thing with Harry Potter AUs. Don't try and recreate the books. Recreate like experiences from the books, such as the Goblet of Fire, and that's the only pass that I will give to this type of AU. I really prefer when it's just the characters having their own lives in the setting of Harry Potter. That's essentially it. Now, Hanahaki disease. I wish there were a lot more long-form chapter books of Hanahaki disease, because like there'll be some stories where it's Hanahaki based, however it'll be about 4 chapters long, and that's good, but just think of the long-term implications of this type of like story. I honestly think Hanahaki should be sort of its own genre in original works instead of in fanfiction, because it is such a cool concept and could be worked really, really well in original work stories. But in fanfiction, it's also really, really good if you really like hurt, comfort, or angst, or you just want to be in pain, but you also really like soulmate AUs. Because it isn't really a soulmate AU, it's a you fall in love with this person or you die, and you confess or you die kind of dealio. Depending on what kind of fanfiction, I've seen people twist it that if the person doesn't accept your confession, you die. If you don't confess, obviously the main premise of a Hanahaki, usually it's you fall in love with someone, and as you fall in love with them, flowers grow from your heart, from your lungs, in your chest, and you start spitting them out of your mouth with blood and etc. And with Hanahaki, if you do not confess your love to the person that you are in love with, you will die. The only way to prevent dying from Hanahaki is by confessing to this person. And the really cool dynamic about Hanahaki for me because of that is because it is really difficult to confess to someone that you love. And just having the life or death scenario because of it, and because I really like hurt comfort fanfiction, it's a really intriguing concept. Next is the tattoo shop, flower shop dynamic. Now I fucking love this dynamic so much. I just wanted to mention it because I feel like there should be a trope where it's coffee shop, tattoo shop, flower shop, because that would be such a good either polyamorous dynamic or love triangle dynamic, whichever way you want to spin it. I think it would be so fucking cool to have a coffee shop, tattoo shop, flower shop kind of dynamic, because obviously with the tattoo shop, flower shop, it's opposites attract, they work in very different businesses, but a general coffee shop AU is someone's working at a coffee shop or they're in a coffee shop and they meet someone else. And I kind of like the everyone's working in a different shop kind of deal. I don't know, that idea came to mind as I was thinking of things to put into this video, and I just wanted to mention that. Someone please write me a coffee shop, tattoo shop, flower shop AU, because I really want to read it. Hello, I'm back. This is the last time I'll be in this video like this, so yeah, I have one issue and one issue only with gender bends. That is the changing of the gender of one singular character with the purpose of shipping that character with another character. This is always one character, and the plot of the books are typically canon compliant, meaning it is just sort of retelling the story of the anime with a few extra scenes in it. One singular character has their gender changed with the purpose of them shipping with another character. And this doesn't matter which end of the spectrum it's for, whether it's changing the gender of a character to make it a straight ship or to make it a gay ship. I just really don't like this version of a gender bend. And it's not to say that I don't like all gender bend stories, and it's not to say that I don't like stories in which a character has predetermined feelings for another character and then their gender is swapped, magically, or they express that they are a different gender, coming out. Those I'm fine with because those are typically non-canon compliant. Typically. It is usually canon compliant stories with only one character's gender who has been changed to the opposite gender from the start for shipping purposes. And just to clarify, if you change a character's gender as a form of as your self-expression, that's cool. We can see that in the writing. Usually that is also in the tags of the book, and personally I don't really define that as a gender bend. I sort of define it as a author projection, if that makes sense, which isn't a trope, but it is extremely common in fanfiction, especially with the era of kinnies. And at the times which this happens, it is obviously stories that are not typically canon compliant. So I am fine with those kinds of stories, again, because you can see the intent that the author is sort of just projecting their own gender onto their favorite character, and that makes sense. And for those who may be confused or who may argue that how the fuck are we supposed to know the intention of the author? It is often very blatant that they change the gender for a ship purpose and a ship purpose only. Because you can see many of these stories in one-shot books. Obviously, in the world of fanfic, canon compliant stories are also not that common, at least not as common as you would think. So when it happens, it is very obvious. I found this trope most often in the haiku fanfic sphere, a little bit in the Attack on Titan fanfic sphere, obviously with like Edity, which is Eren and Levi. It's a personal preference of mine that I don't like that specific dynamic of gender bend. It's a very niche dynamic of gender bend, but any other form of gender bend is more appealing to me than that specific form of gender bend, especially if it is a full cast gender bend. I really love those kinds of fanfics, especially when it's the gender bent versions of characters meeting their canon version of the characters. I'm completely fine with that. It is just this one specific niche of gender bend that I keep fucking finding and I hate it. Songfics. Okay. Here's where we get a little bit of an interesting perspective. I hate songfics. Why do I hate them? Well, it depends on what kind of songfic you're talking about. So, songfics where they have a playlist that goes along with the story and there are no lyrics in between, I am fine with. If you have chapters based off of songs, I don't care. If you've got chapter titles based off of song lyrics, I don't care. If the entire chapter list is song lyrics and it's based off of one song, that's fine. It's just songfics that have a full song and a full set of lyrics in the middle of the chapter is so frustrating. Because personally to me, it feels like lazy writing. You can do so much in that period of time where you are putting in song lyrics, like talk about the character's emotions, talk about the character's like thought process while singing, but instead people put in full slabs of lyrics. And this doesn't even have to be in a band AU songfic. This could be just in a general songfic where it's a scenario is going on and lyrics are playing beside it. You don't need to do that. You can just put a song link at the top and say, this is the song that you need to listen to while reading this fic. Now, there is a problem with that kind of structure. Obviously, people read at different, like, speeds. Easy fix, make a playlist. However, just song fics that put lyrics in between chunks of writing or paragraphs, I hate. So much. If you put maybe 3 lines of, like, lyrics at the top of the chapter, I don't care, I skip that. I read the rest of the scenario. Just, you do not need the entire song to be in your story for people to understand what's being sung, right? If you say what song is being sung before it's being sung, then they're gonna understand what song you're talking about. People will go out and try and find that song. Now, a really good example of a songfic that I found that I really liked was actually a band AU, and they didn't have slabs of text. They had what the character was thinking and feeling at that time, and they had maybe 2 lines from the song. And that was, in quotation marks, what the character was word for word saying. And then they skipped the rest of the song, went to the next song, and all of this in between bit was the character's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. The next spoken line was the next song. That is the kind of songfic that I like. Just, if you're writing a songfic, for the love of God, do not put slabs of text where the song lyrics are, because that feels like such lazy writing to me. It does not need to be there. Kid fics. Okay, now I need people to fully make titles between different types of kid fics, because oh my god, there is so many types of kid and baby fics. Kid fic 1. The main character is given a child to raise. Whether this child is found on the street, or they've adopted this child, or some magical entity has given the main character a child. The main character doesn't get pregnant, the main character just randomly gets a child. I like this kind of fic. It's interesting, especially if it's an enemies to lovers fic. It is a very interesting concept. Kid fic type 2, the kindergarten fic. So the main cast of whatever media that you are either reading about or writing about has been turned into toddlers, and they are all in kindergarten, except for either the eldest in the cast or the love interest in the cast. And a prominent series that this happens to is Attack on Titan. So think all of the cadets are turned into toddlers, and the Levi squad and Captain Hanji and Commander Erwin, all of them turned into daycare workers, or they're single parents, or etc. That kind of dealio, right? That is what happens in the kindergarten fic. Main character is either a daycare worker or the single parent, or like a relative of the child, and the love interest is always either obviously a daycare worker or a single parent, or relative of the child or carer of the child. The third kind of kid fic is one of two things happens, right? Either it is a established relationship, so two people are shipped together, whether that be an insert or a ship. These two characters are an established relationship, or have their relationship established over time, and they decide to have a baby, or they want a baby, or they've just been in a relationship for a long time, and the first kind of kid fic happens where a baby is dropped in their lap. But this type of kid fic is a pregnancy type kid fic or baby fic, and they become parents. Now, this is the good side of that type of fic. It is an established relationship, or some kind of established friendship, or something like that. It is a positive relationship, and they get pregnant, and it's a good thing. The other kind of this type of kid fic is accidental pregnancy. And this kind of thing happens from a one-night stand. Yeah. And I find this in a lot of enemies to lovers type fics. That's not for me, really, at all. There's also a lot of accidental pregnancy fics in the really, really bad non-consensual kind of dealio. We don't fuck with that. No, we like the established relationship, the good one. We like the good one, where everyone's happy. Kid fic, baby fic 3.0, not the best one. I think the first two are far superior, but I really think they should be fully divided, because when I did my tier list video, there was like the baby fic, and like I had to explain like in editing that there was like I was thinking of like 3 different types of baby fic when I thought of baby fic, because there's not a really distinctive like genre for these kinds of fics. There's the first kind of baby fic or kid fic, then there's the kindergarten type baby fic or kid fic, and then there's like the last baby fic or kid fic. And it's like, we should discern which is which. So on this channel, the second one is the kindergarten fic, the first one is the kid fic, a child has been dropped into your lap, kid fic. And the last one is baby fic, because you want a baby. The next one is next gen or descendants type fics. At that point, maybe just write a different book. It's cute when it's on like TikTok and you're creating OCs and you're creating like art and all that kind of shit, but for fully next gen heroes, for like My Hero Academia, usually the characters are just like the parents and they're in the background, so maybe just write your own superhero fic at that point. But like I get the whole point of like wanting to be a part of My Hero Academia, and it's really fun. But like there are some types of like next gen fics where it may as well be just a different story completely with elements from this initial piece of media. And that's like my main gripe with next gen fics. Typically I find them really fun, but they're very OC heavy. And speaking of OC heavy, we're going to move straight in to OCs, right? Now, I did a huge rant, and this is the reason why I'm making this video. I did a huge rant that I cut out of the tier list video about reader inserts and OCs. Now, I have some issue with the OC type fic because there is different variants, much like with a kid fic, much like with a soulmate EU, different variants of OC fanfiction, okay? So, reader insert fanfiction is one of the least popular type of fanfiction for people to read. However, it is so highly written, and we are starting with reader inserts because this is context. So, reader inserts, the YN your name type character is a punching bag of Twitter. Essentially, you put yourself into the book. Please put keys to certain aspects of your reader insert fanfiction in the fanfiction, please. And what I mean is you'll see this YN or your name tag a lot. You will also see a lot of your first name, your last name, or first name, last name in this type of fic. You will see a lot of favorite color, eye color, favorite song, favorite band. But you won't see the full, like, sentence. You will see the acronym. So many fanfictions don't have a key as to what they mean. You have to, like, get contextual evidence to piece together what the fuck that is, right? And for some people, it's really hard to figure it out, and in a lot of stories it's really hard to figure out what the fuck it means. The first time I saw your like YN, your name like this, I was so confused, so unbelievably confused, because I'd never seen it like that before. I'd always seen it as your name or name. I'd never seen it as YN, and it was so confusing. I had to search it up, right? That is not the case for many of the abbreviations that people put down. So please, for the love of God, if you're doing a reader insert, put a key at the top of the page as to what each thing means, for the love of God. Please. What can you say about reader inserts? They're just, yeah. They're decent for the ones that I've read, but I'm more likely to read a ship fic or a general fic than read one where I am the main character. I mean, you've all seen what I do for Otome games. I put in a different fucking name. Which leads me to my next question. Do people actually put their fucking names in fucking X-reader fics or reader insert fics? Please tell me. Do people actually put their own name in? Or do people have their own OC for fanfiction specifically like I do? Because I cannot put my own name into these stories. Please tell me I'm not the only one who does that. I want to clown on insert fics for just a second. And this is with any fanfiction. It is this disclaimer. That disclaimer is so funny to me, because I see it in so many fanfictions. If you're writing a fanfiction, obviously people put in there for like legal reasons, but like mainly because of the like fanfic purges of like the mid-2000s. But if it's a fanfiction on a fan site under a fandom, people are so not gonna like take it that you own that piece of media, and it's so fucking funny to me. And the obviously I don't own you aspect is really funny to me. Like, oh my god, I get it for like, for some people it's because obviously it's a what's it called, a creative property that isn't yours, so you kind of have to put that there. But like, just adding the I don't own you aspect is really funny to me. And then there's the people who put it there because everyone else does it and they don't fully understand what it means. Like, there are genuinely people out there, because I was like that at one point too, where they put it there because everyone else puts it there and they don't understand why it's there. Because it's like, do people genuinely think that I wrote this hugely popular fandom thing? No. But like, a lot of young writers won't understand that it's there for like somewhat legal reasons if people find issue with your fanfiction. So I just find that so fucking funny. And then when it gets to OC fanfics, there's just another layer to that, and usually this is added to it. Don't steal my OCs. Now, I know for a fact there are people who do steal OCs, however, usually that's in the case of art. I have never seen a person steal an OC for a fanfiction. Never. Not once. So seeing that on OC fanfiction makes me laugh really hard. So fucking hard. Because I get it, people get really protective over their own characters. But I would like you to think about this for 1 second. People get really protective over their own characters. And you're writing a fanfiction of someone else's characters. The irony. Having that pushed aside, OC fanfics and OCs in general. Why do I fucking hate OC fanfictions? I think of OCs in 2 different senses. So I think of OCs in the sense of there's a character for the reader to interact with that isn't from the like actual series themselves. So say this is one that I've written. The main protagonist is you're the main protagonist of the story. However, the family that you have is completely OCs. It's completely made up characters because I, at the time, didn't want to have any of the characters related to you, the main character. So I made an OC family for that character. And to me, that makes a lot of sense to do. Now, as long as that OC family isn't detrimental to the plot, you can have them in it for the entire fic. It's when people make fanfiction about a certain series and make the story all about the OCs. Now, I don't mean it in the sense that the main character is an OC. If the main character is an OC, it makes sense that they're, you know, the whole story is about them. I mean, if they make 2 OCs and the conflict is about those 2 OCs, why? Why make a fan fiction and not just write a book? That is my main problem with OC fanfiction, is that if you make more than one OC for your fanfiction and then make the entire story dedicated around the conflict between these 2 OCs, why write fanfiction? Just write a fucking book.
Okay, I'm using photos for this editorial insert, but something that I didn't include and was trying to bring across with the whole 2 OCs conflict type thing is the fact that it's not so much that they're 2 OCs in conflict, it's more so the entire screen time and substance of the story is only with the OCs. Now, in some cases this is okay, such as with a 2nd gen fic. However, in a lot of the cases, the OC is in the universe as it happens. So, I'm going to give 2 different examples. One is Haikyuu, one is My Hero Academia. With the My Hero Academia 2nd gen, like TikToks and fics, that is fine when it is just OCs. Because it makes sense that it's just OCs because they're children of the main characters. And I already said my piece on second gen fic and how I'm not a huge fan of it and it's fun on TikTok and all that shit. However, in that context, it's okay. And the same with Haikyuu. I've seen a few fics and I actually have enjoyed a few fics of Haikyuu second gen. And it works really, really well in art, comics, webtoons, that kind of stuff works really well. In the sense of writing fanfiction, when you have more than one OC in the main universe, not being second gen, the main universe of your desired series, having more than one OC and having all the screen time dedicated to those 2 or 3 or 4 or group of OCs, it is incredibly frustrating to read. That is the point I'm trying to prove with this. It's very frustrating to read when it's in the actual universe itself. You can have... When you read OC fanfiction, the main thing you want to see is the OC interact with the other characters around them. Obviously, the OC on OC conflict is also really fucking annoying, but when it is one OC and they never interact with the characters from the desired universe that you are reading about, that you clicked on this fanfiction to read, it is so incredibly frustrating. And that is the point I'm trying to display with this section.
The characters from the piece of media that you're referencing are all side characters. They're not interacting with the main character whatsoever, and the main plot point is with this other OC, and they bring in other OCs into this. Like, just write a different fucking story. That's what I hate so much about OC fanfics and why I just will not read them. Because if it is one character, one OC that you create and you put a lot of personality into them, it can be a really good fanfiction. If you put more than one and the main story just centers around those 2, why? Why did you even make it a fanfiction? Just make a book. Yes, that is my entire plot device with that. Mary Sue's in fanfiction. Oh my god. Just, especially on Wattpad, the amount of Mary Sue fanfiction, because they're ex-reader fanfiction, is insane. And the same goes with OC fanfiction. And it's probably the main reason why people don't like those 2 types of fanfiction specifically, because characters that come from your own mind and then are put in these supernatural worlds, you want these characters to be as powerful, if not more powerful, than the main characters in the actual show themselves. For example, in Attack on Titan, you would want your character to be as good as Levi Ackerman, wouldn't you? So people make them as good as Levi Ackerman and just overpower that shit. So it's like, that's the main reason why I think people don't like X-Reader and OC fanfiction, is because of the surplus of like Mary Sue characters in these types of fanfiction, and it's insane, and it's why people kind of also steer away from Wattpad. It's why people more direct towards shipfics or genfics. So shipfics, people are more attracted to it from like what I've seen, because it's usually a romantic conflict between 2 characters that they really like and that they want to be together. And this is like, to me, the main reason why people write fanfiction. And like, if you like go back in history and look at fandom itself, I'm talking about Star Trek here, because one of the first like huge fandoms, or one of the first fandoms, was Star Trek. And Star Trek got fucking huge, right? And a huge thing about Star Trek was one of the first ships ever created, and this is in general, was Spock and I forgot his name, but the main captain. And this ship got fucking huge, and I believe that's when people started like writing fanfiction and stuff like that. I may be confusing my media class and my experimental writing class together because both of them talked about the exact same thing, but fanfiction definitely started with like that kind of ship. And I could be wrong here because I was half paying attention during that class, but and it's been a while since I had that class, but fanfiction kind of originated from shipping, especially from that ship in general. So like ship fics are the whole reason that like fan fiction started, so of course it'd be really fucking popular. And if you go onto literally any fandom, the fucking main type of fan fiction you'll see is ship fiction, and every fandom has their own ship. For example, Minecraft YouTube, Dream Not Found. Hitalia, it was US UK. For My Hero Academia, it's either Tododeku or Bakudeku. But shipfics drive fanfiction and what's popular in fanfiction and fandom in general. The top fanfictions you hear about are all shipping fanfictions, with like exceptions for certain different types of fandoms. For example, in the Minecraft YouTube fandom, you will find a lot more like general fics become popular than ship fics. So Passerine got really, really fucking popular. But then on the flip side, Heatwaves got super fucking popular in the specifically the Dream SMP part of the Minecraft YouTube fandom, but just in the Minecraft YouTube fandom in general. So ship fics are like the foundation of fanfiction, and that's why they're so fucking popular. Then is the general fic. Now, this one is super fucking popular, mainly in fandoms where it's more real people kind of fandoms, especially Minecraft YouTube. But general fics is obviously a fanfiction where there's no romance. I've seen a few of those in like Hitalia, where one that was really good that I read for Hitalia was the character of Canada fighting in World War II, I believe. It was mainly from his perspective in his head as he was a pilot in this fanfiction, and it was really, really good. Whereas there are other fanfictions, and obviously in Minecraft YouTube there's Passerine, and people fucking love it, and there's a lot in Minecraft YouTube that is just general fics, and it'll be like a found family type fic. Those are usually general fics. Going on a journey but not finding any romantic like characters kind of thing. Gen fics can have romance in them, but romance isn't the main focus of those types of fics, and they're really, really refreshing because they can be really, really fun. And I honestly love those types of fics if they're written really well. But yes, that has been my fanfiction rant. You can probably hear in my voice how much I've been talking. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, this is my opinion. It was originally meant to be comedic, but it just lost all comedic content at some point. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next week. Bye!